Chapter 1. Estelle. There are many ways to discover your relationship is over. Finding suspicious text messages, seeing lipstick on someone else's collar, getting that awful feeling in your stomach that refuses to go away. Apparently, there is also a fourth option. Walking into your apartment 30 minutes earlier than expected and finding your girlfriend kissing someone else on your couch. Personally, I don't recommend that one. I stand behind the pharmacy counter pretending to organize a shelf of cold medicine for the third time in 5 minutes. Nothing actually needs organizing. My life does. The little white boxes are perfectly lined up, unlike my emotions. A customer asks where the cough syrup is, I point. Another asks whether vitamin C prevents colds, I answer automatically. My mouth keeps working while my brain stubbornly refuses to leave 8:30 this morning. Chloe had looked genuinely surprised when I'd walked into the apartment. Not guilty, surprised, like she'd been caught stealing cookies instead of cheating on her girlfriend. Estelle, she'd actually smiled, as if everything were normal, as if I hadn't just watched her kissing another beta with her hands tangled in someone else's hair. It's not what it looks like, I snort under my breath. The elderly woman browsing painkillers glances over. Sorry, I mumble. She returns to comparing ibuprofen brands. I wish heartbreak came in blister packs. 1 tablet every 6 hours. May cause drowsiness. Avoid operating heavy machinery while emotionally devastated. Unfortunately, pharmaceutical science has failed me. Instead, I'm left replaying the conversation over and over. Please don't overreact. That one nearly made me laugh. Overreact? I caught her cheating. What reaction was she expecting? A loyalty rewards program? Congratulations on your 5th betrayal. Your next one's free. She'd followed me around the apartment while I shoved clothes into a duffel bag. We've been together 2 years. I know. Don't throw everything away over one mistake. One mistake. Interesting way to describe repeatedly removing your clothes for someone else. I love you. I zipped my bag. No, I answered quietly. You loved being loved. There was a difference, a very important difference. She'd grabbed my wrist before I could leave. You'll calm down. No, you always do. I won't this time. You'll forgive me. That had been the moment I'd finally looked at her. Really looked. The woman I'd imagined building a future with. The woman I'd chose because I thought dating a beta would be easier, safer, less overwhelming. I'd dated alphas before, never seriously, just enough to learn how terrifying their pheromones could be. One scent, one touch, one approving smile. Sometimes it felt like my omega instincts were trying to hijack my entire personality. I hated that. I wanted my choices to belong to me, not my biology. So I'd deliberately chosen a beta. No intoxicating alpha scent, no instincts clouding my judgment, no overwhelming bond. Just 2 women choosing each other. I honestly believed that would give us better odds. Instead, I'd been cheated on anyway. Turns out, betrayal doesn't care what designation you are. My omega instincts still ache for a partner. If anything, they grow louder every year. Some days it's only a quiet loneliness. Other days, it's a hollow feeling in my chest whenever I walk home alone. I wanted someone who chose me, someone whose first instinct was to come home. Instead, I got Chloe. The automatic doors slide open. A familiar scent reaches me first. Fresh cedar, bergamot, the clean smell of rain after a summer storm. Gentle, never overwhelming, somehow soothing instead of commanding. I look up and immediately forget my own name. Vivian. Well, there goes my productivity. She's wearing a cream blouse tucked into charcoal trousers with a navy blazer draped neatly over one arm instead of her shoulders. A leather briefcase hangs from one hand, and several loose strands have escaped the elegant knot holding back her long black hair. She looks like she walked out of a magazine for impossibly successful women. Tall, graceful, composed, beautiful enough that my brain automatically starts buffering whenever she smiles. She's also my favorite customer. Not because she's gorgeous. Okay, not only because she's gorgeous.
She's one of the few people who actually sees me. Most customers treat pharmacy staff like particularly intelligent vending machines. Vivian always smiles, always says hello, always asks how my day's going. She knows my name. Good afternoon, Estelle. See? There it is, the smile. Warm enough to make my miserable morning shrink several sizes. Hi, Vivian. My voice comes out suspiciously cheerful. Traitor. 5 seconds ago, I was contemplating emotional ruin. Now my pulse has apparently decided we're starring in a romantic comedy. She sets her briefcase down beside the allergy medications. I hope today has been kind to you. I almost laugh. If today were a person, I'd file a restraining order. It had a rough start. Concern softens her green eyes. I'm sorry to hear that. Just those 6 words. No rushing, no pretending to care, just genuine kindness. She's always like this. The first time I'd noticed was months ago. One of her clients had apparently sent over pastries from a famous bakery downtown, the kind where each croissant costs enough to make my bank account cry. She'd walked into the pharmacy carrying the elegant white box. My office ordered far too many. She held it toward me. Would you like one? I stared at the buttery masterpiece inside. I can't. Why not? They're expensive. They're already paid for. But I'd feel better knowing someone enjoyed them. I accepted. It had been the best almond croissant of my entire life. I still think about it occasionally, usually around lunchtime. Then there was the evening I'd accidentally worked a double shift. I'd been so exhausted I almost scanned the same prescription twice. Vivian had taken one look at my face and gently said, "You don't have to carry every difficult day alone, you know." Nobody had asked how I was doing that week, except her, which was wildly unfair. How was I supposed to not develop a crush? Unfortunately, reality exists. Vivian Mercer is a successful corporate lawyer. I'm a pharmacy technician who gets excited when employee discount week rolls around. Our worlds don't exactly overlap. Besides, women like Vivian probably date surgeons, or judges, or CEOs who own islands, not women who spend their afternoons explaining the difference between antihistamines. Still, looping is free. I'm here for my usual allergy medication. I already have it ready, she smiles. I knew you would. Heat blooms across my cheeks. You always remember. It's kind of my job. I suspect you'd remember even if it weren't. My heart performs a complete gymnastics routine. Please, don't flirt with me. I'm emotionally unstable today. Actually, please keep flirting. I deserve one nice thing. As I retrieve the medication, I notice her fingers pressing against her temples. She's rubbing slow circles. Her eyes close briefly. When they open again, there's a faint tension around them. Headache? She sighs. Unfortunately. Long day? It's only 2 in the afternoon. Which probably answers my question. A soft laugh escapes her. I've been preparing for trial all week. I can tell. You can? I think it's the classic successful alpha stress headache. She raises an eyebrow. That's a diagnosis? I've decided it is. She smiles again. Dangerous woman. I was actually hoping you might recommend something. I glance toward the cane relief file, then back at her. An idea appears. A ridiculous, terrible, absolutely brilliant idea. Medication would solve the problem, but medication doesn't involve touching Vivian. A massage does. My inner voice immediately objects. Estelle, that's insane. My outer voice says, "Honestly? Yes? I think a massage would help more than painkillers." She blinks. "You give massages?" I think fast. "Have very enthusiastic hands." Vivian laughs. It's quiet, rich, beautiful. I decide on the spot that I deserve to hear that sound at least once a day for the rest of my life. "I finish in 40 minutes, I add, "if you're not in a rush." She studies me for a moment. "I'm trusting my pharmacist an unusual amount." "You absolutely are." I suppose that's what happens when she always remembers my medication. Then, to my complete astonishment, she nods. "All right." My brain briefly disconnects from reality. "Really? Really? Oh, you sound surprised. I was expecting you to politely refuse." I considered it, and "You looked very confident." If only she knew. Inside, I am approximately 3 squirrels wearing a trench coat. "Come back in 40 minutes, I manage. "I'll see what I can do." "I look forward to it." She wanders toward the skincare section while I stand perfectly still. Then I remember how breathing works. Barely. To avoid looking like I'm staring, I pull out my phone. Mistake. Absolute mistake. My thumb opens Chloe's profile before I can stop myself. Why? Because apparently I enjoy emotional self-harm. New photos.
Wonderful. She's already smiling. I scroll. Vacation pictures, office party, selfie, then family dinner. I freeze. No. No way. I zoom in. Standing beside Chloe is Vivian. Same green eyes, same elegant smile, same impossibly composed posture. My favorite customer, the lawyer, the woman whose headache I'm about to massage. My crush. My stomach drops. I read the caption again. "Celebrating my amazing big sister. Couldn't have done it without you." Big sister. Big sister. My phone nearly slips from my hand. Vivian Mercer, Chloe's older sister. I stare across the pharmacy. Vivian is comparing moisturizers with complete concentration, blissfully unaware that my entire universe has just exploded. Of course. Of course this would happen to me. What are the odds? Actually, don't answer that. I don't want to know. For several long seconds, pure panic fills my brain. Absolutely not. This is terrible. I have a crush on my cheating ex-girlfriend's older sister. Then, another thought quietly wanders into my consciousness. Wait. If Vivian is Chloe's older sister, and Chloe has spent her entire life being compared to Vivian, and Chloe is secretly jealous of how accomplished Vivian is, a tiny spark lights somewhere deep inside me. It grows, slowly, dangerously. By the time Vivian returns to the counter, the spark has become a fully formed, wonderfully petty idea. I smile sweetly. Inside my head, dramatic orchestral music begins playing. I'm going to date her sister. The thought is so outrageous I almost laugh out loud. It isn't enough for Chloe to lose me. She should have to watch me fall for the one woman she's always believed was untouchable. She should remember every family dinner, every holiday, every birthday, exactly what she threw away. Of course, step 1 is getting Vivian to notice me as something other than her friendly neighborhood pharmacist. Fortunately, I already have 40 minutes of uninterrupted head massage scheduled. Maybe my revenge plan isn't completely impossible after all. 40 minutes later, I clock out, hang my name tag inside my locker, and immediately question every decision that has led me to this moment. Because I'm about to give my crush a head massage. For revenge.
definitely for revenge. Not because she's beautiful, not because my heart performs gymnastics every time she smiles at me. Those things are entirely unrelated. Probably. I step back onto the pharmacy floor. Vivian is exactly where I left her, seated in the small waiting area with one ankle crossed over the other while reading something on her tablet. She looks up the second she hears my footsteps. "There you are." "I did tell you 40 minutes. "You did." "You sound surprised I came back." The legal profession teaches healthy skepticism. I thought it taught arguing. It teaches both. I should have guessed. She slips the tablet into her briefcase and stands. I'm ready whenever my unusually confident pharmacist is. I grin. Follow me. I lead her around the counter toward the employees-only door. She glances at the sign. Am I about to commit pharmacy trespassing? I'll allow it. Very generous. I know. The hallway behind the pharmacy is much less glamorous than the storefront. Fluorescent lights, white walls, a coffee machine that has survived at least 3 decades out of spite. Vivian looks around with obvious curiosity. I've always wondered what was back here. Disappointment. No? Mostly paperwork. That's even worse. It really is. We walk side by side toward the tiny staff room. For a few moments, comfortable silence settles between us. Then Vivian asks quietly, "You mentioned today had a rough start." I hesitate. I'm trying very hard to not think about it. Fair enough. My current treatment plan involves going home, turning my speakers up far too loud, and listening to Florence and the Machine until my problems become poetic instead of tragic. Vivian stops walking. I nearly walk into her. You like Florence and the Machine? I blink. You do too? You've heard of them? Something changes in her expression. She actually lights up. Not politely. Genuinely. My trial playlist is almost entirely Florence. No way, she nods. When a case starts falling apart, I put on Shake It Out. I stare at her. My emotional support song is Cosmic Love. She smiles wider. I wasn't expecting that. Neither was I. Oh no. What? I've found another person who understands my extremely specific coping mechanisms. You mean dramatically staring out windows while Florence Welch sings about emotional devastation? Exactly that. She laughs again. I thought I was the only one. I've spent entire evenings pretending I'm the main character in an indie film. With rain? Mandatory. Cup of tea? Obviously. She nods with complete seriousness. I approve. For some reason, that tiny exchange makes something warm bloom inside my chest. We've known each other for months, yet this is the first time we've talked about anything outside prescriptions and allergies, and somehow it's easy. So, I ask, what does a corporate lawyer do when she's not saving enormous companies? Vivian makes a face. Usually? Usually. Work. That's depressing. It is. No hobbies? I own hobbies. Own? I've purchased several books. Reading them would help, I've been told. I laugh. What about friends? Her smile softens. I don't see them often. Family? Occasionally. What steals all your free time? My job. She says it so matter-of-factly that my heart pinches. I've spent years telling myself that once I finish one more case, she shakes her head, there's always one more case. And suddenly 6 months disappear? A frighteningly accurate summary. I glance sideways at her. So you're secretly lonely. She looks genuinely surprised. I suppose I am. Congratulations. For what? You've been diagnosed. By the pharmacist? I'm branching out into emotional medicine. I should be worried? You probably should. She smiles. I don't mind. That smile nearly derails my train of thought. Single, Lonely, works too much. Kind. My ridiculous revenge plan suddenly seems not easy, but possible, if I don't embarrass myself first. I open the staff room door. Welcome. Vivian steps inside. The room is tiny. One narrow cot against the wall for employees working overnight inventory, a microwave, a tiny refrigerator, 2 mismatched chairs, one coffee table with a perpetually dying succulent. Vivian slowly turns in a circle. This is tiny? I was going to say cozy. That's lawyer language for tiny. It is. I gesture proudly. On your left, you'll find our state-of-the-art microwave. She nods solemnly. Impressive. Over here is Steve. She looks at the succulent. Steve? I haven't technically died yet. I admire his determination. And finally, I sweep an arm dramatically toward the cot, our luxury spa. Vivian laughs. I feel underdressed. You'll survive. I trust your professional judgment. I sit near the head of the cot and pat my lap before my brain can remind me that normal people don't casually invite gorgeous women to do this. If you're comfortable. She studies me for a second. Then, without making it awkward, she slips off her blazer, folds it neatly over one of the chairs, and lies down. Carefully. Gracefully. Her head settles onto my lap. My heart immediately forgets its responsibilities. Oh, she's close. Very close. I can count individual eyelashes. Her green eyes meet mine for just a second before she closes them. Like this? Perfect. Please don't hear how breathless I sound. I gently gather the loose strands of her dark hair away from her face. They're impossibly soft. Her cedar and rain scent surrounds me. I've spent months catching faint traces of it across the pharmacy counter. Up close, it's different. Warmer. Comforting. Other alphas I've met always felt overwhelming, their pheromones pressing insistently against my instincts. Vivian's don't. Being this close to her feels less like standing in a thunderstorm and more like sinking into warm bathwater after an exhausting day. To my utter annoyance, I feel myself relaxing almost as much as she's about to. Ready? She nods. I rest my fingertips lightly against her temples. Circles. Gentle pressure. Years ago, my grandmother used to massage my head whenever I came home stressed from exams. She always insisted headaches began in the shoulders long before they reached the temples. So I begin there. My thumbs trace slow lines along the muscles at the base of Vivian's neck.
They're incredibly tense. You weren't exaggerating, I murmur. Your shoulders feel like concrete. I've been told that before. I believe it. I continue kneading the tight muscles with careful, steady pressure before returning to her temples, letting my fingertips move in slow circles. Minute by minute, I watch the tension leave her face. The tiny crease between her brows softens, her jaw unclenches, her breathing deepens. She lets out the quietest sigh. I smile to myself. Progress. I think, she murmurs without opening her eyes, you may have missed your calling. I don't think pharmacies would appreciate losing me. They'd recover. I'd miss the employee discount. A compelling argument. She sounds sleepier now, the kind of sleepy that only comes after finally letting yourself stop carrying the weight of the day. I smooth my fingers lightly through her hair before returning to the pressure points around her scalp. I didn't realize how much this hurt, she says softly. You've probably been ignoring it. I ignore most things until deadlines pass. I noticed. You've known me long enough to notice? I've noticed a lot. The words slip out before I can stop them. A warm silence follows. Not awkward, just comfortable. She opens one eye. You pay attention. I work in healthcare.
I don't think that's the reason. Heat climbs into my cheeks. Maybe she's right. After another few minutes, Vivian lets out a contented breath that almost sounds like a laugh. My headache is gone. Really? Almost completely. She opens both eyes now, looking up at me with an expression so relaxed I barely recognize her. She looks peaceful, like someone finally gave herself permission to rest. A ridiculous swell of pride fills my chest. I did that. I made her day a little better. She sits up slowly, turning to me. I owe you. You don't owe me anything. I disagree. She picks up her blazer. You took care of me after what sounds like an awful day. Then she smiles. I'd like to return the favor. My opportunity arrives so perfectly that it almost feels scripted. I pretend to think very hard. Vivian waits patiently. I suppose, I clear my throat, you could take me to dinner. For one terrifying second, she simply looks at me. Then her smile grows. I was hoping you'd say that. You were? I've wanted an excuse to spend more time talking to you. My pulse stumbles. Really? You make even headache treatments entertaining. I have many talents. I've noticed. She reaches into her briefcase and pulls out a business card, writing something on the back before handing it to me. My personal number. I stare at it, then at her. If tomorrow evening works, it does. Wonderful. She slips her blazer back on. I know a little Italian restaurant that's excellent. I grin so hard my cheeks hurt. Vivian holds my gaze for a heartbeat before answering with quiet certainty. I can't wait, I whisper, excited that I'm finally about to get revenge on the beta who broke my heart.
Chapter 2. Estelle. There are normal ways to prepare for a first date. Picking an outfit, brushing your hair, trying not to embarrass yourself. Then there's whatever it is I'm doing. My laptop is open. My phone is open. 3 tabs have become 31. My dining table looks less like the home of a pharmacy technician and more like the headquarters of a woman plotting a corporate takeover, which isn't entirely inaccurate. I click on another search result. Corporate lawyers. Average work schedule. 60-hour weeks. I nod to myself. Explains the headache. Next tab. Best wine pairings for Italian food. Next. Common alpha personality traits. Next. How omega pheromones influence alpha behavior. I pause. This one is particularly interesting. Apparently, scent becomes more noticeable with trust, proximity, and physical comfort. Repeated positive interactions can strengthen subconscious associations. So, if Vivian already associates my scent with relaxation, and she already trusts me enough to rest in my lap, then no. I close the tab, then immediately open it again. This is research, entirely scientific, definitely not me figuring out how to seduce my cheating ex's older sister. A tiny voice in the back of my head whispers, "That's exactly what you're doing." I ignore it. Instead, I make a list. Operation Seduce Vivian. 1. Smell nice. 2. Be funny. 3. Maintain eye contact. 4. Accidental hand touching. 5. Don't accidentally confess you're using her to get revenge. That one seems especially important. An hour later, my bedroom resembles a clothing store after a tornado. I hold up dress number 4. No, too formal. Dress number 5. No, too casual. Sweater? Absolutely not. Tonight requires strategy. Eventually, I settle on a soft emerald green wrap dress. It isn't revealing, not exactly. The neckline rests just low enough to hint at my collarbones. The sleeves end above my elbows. The skirt reaches my knees. The fabric hugs my waist before flowing softly around my hips.
I'd read somewhere that alphas tend to notice an omega's neck, wrists, and waist instinctively. I'm choosing to believe that's completely irrelevant. Mostly. I twist in front of the mirror. You look normal. A pause. Normal-ish. Good enough. The restaurant is tucked between an old bookstore and a florist downtown. Warm, yellow lights glow behind enormous windows. The sign above the entrance simply reads, Luca's. Vivian is already waiting outside. For one glorious second, I don't recognize her because she's wearing a dress. A black one. Backless, elegant, simple. The fabric drapes effortlessly over her tall frame before disappearing into a flowing skirt. Her long, dark hair falls loose tonight instead of being pinned up. The evening breeze catches it gently. She looks less like an attorney, more like the woman attorneys secretly wished they looked like. Movie stars have nothing on her. She notices me, smiles, and suddenly my carefully rehearsed greeting evaporated. Oh! Brilliant. Outstanding conversational skills. She laughs softly. Hello to you, too. I recover. Please recover. You look amazing. Heat rises into her cheeks. So do you. Then she steps closer, close enough that her scent reaches me fully. Cedar, rain, something citrusy tonight. It wraps around me gently. Nothing like the aggressive alpha pheromones I've experienced before. No pressure, no instinct screaming at me, just comfort, safety. My omega practically sighs. Dangerous, very dangerous. I swallow. Estelle, remember why you're here. Revenge, not romance. Definitely not romance. Because if I keep staring at Chloe's sister like this, I'm going to become the punchline in my own revenge story. Vivian tilts her head. Everything okay? Perfectly. You've been looking at me for almost 20 seconds. Have I? You have. I smile sheepishly. I got distracted. By... I gesture vaguely toward all of her. You. She laughs again. I'll accept that answer. The restaurant smells like garlic, rosemary, and freshly baked bread. Soft jazz drifts through the room. Candles flicker on every table. An open kitchen lets them watch chefs toss pasta through the air with practiced ease. This place is beautiful, I say. I hoped you'd like it. I already do. A waiter appears. Vivian gestures toward the wine list. Do you drink wine? Occasionally. I'll choose something light. She studies the menu with surprising seriousness. Meanwhile, I'm studying her. She catches me. Do I have something on my face? No. Then? I was wondering how someone who argues for a living manages to look this calm. I argue professionally. So you're saying you save the dramatic arguments for your personal life. I avoid those. Smart. What about you? I narrate mine internally. I suspected as much. Bread arrives. Warm, fresh, served with whipped herb butter. I tear off a piece. It practically melts. Oh, Vivian smiles knowingly. I remember that expression. This ravioli deserves awards. It probably has some. I'd vote for it. I imagined you would. Conversation drifts effortlessly from food to work. Then Vivian asks, what made you become a pharmacist? The question stills something inside me. I look down at my fork. I didn't. She waits, patiently. I wanted to become a doctor. Her expression softens. What happened? I laugh quietly, not because it's funny, because sometimes laughing hurts less. I graduated near the top of my class. She nods. I applied to medical school 3 times. Another nod. My interview scores were excellent. Estelle, I continue before I lose my nerve. One interviewer actually told me I'd make an excellent physician. Then why weren't you accepted? I meet her eyes. They had enough Omega students. Silence. Heavy silence. They wanted more Alpha applicants. Vivian slowly sets down her fork. What? Our acceptance rates are different. That's illegal. It's common. No. It happens. No, she repeats, firmer this time. What happened to you was discrimination. I shrug. They always find another justification. They shouldn't have to. It would have cost more to challenge than my family could afford. Vivian's jaw tightens. As a lawyer, she pauses. Hearing that makes me angry. I smile sadly. I know. You should have been judged on merit. I stopped expecting that. No, she shakes her head. You deserved fairness. Something in my chest loosens. Nobody has ever said that before. Most people simply tell me life isn't fair. Vivian looks genuinely offended on my behalf. The feeling is unexpectedly comforting. You know, she says quietly, I spend my career arguing that rules matter. She looks directly at me. When people with power misuse them, her voice hardens, they should be challenged. I find myself smiling. You really believe that? I do. And relationships. She blinks. What about them? What matters most? She thinks for a second. Honesty. Only honesty? It's the foundation. She smiles faintly. My previous girlfriend had access to one of my credit cards for emergencies. Ouch. She used it for shopping. Without asking? For almost 6 months. My eyebrows shoot upward. Vivian. I know.
That's awful. It wasn't the money. No. It was discovering she'd been lying every week. I nod slowly. I think once trust disappears, everything else follows. Exactly. The words leave us sitting in thoughtful silence. Finally, I sigh. I understand. She looks up. My girlfriend cheated on me. Realization flashes across her face. Yesterday? I nod. That's why I was in such a wonderful mood. Oh, Estelle. The sympathy in her voice almost undoes me. I'm so sorry. I'll survive. I'm sure you will. She smiles gently. Because any woman foolish enough to cheat on someone like you is making a terrible decision. Heat blooms across my face. Someone like me? You're kind. She counts on her fingers. Funny. Another finger. Thoughtful. Another. And extremely attractive. I nearly choke on my wine. Vivian. What? You're embarrassing me. I'm complimenting you. It's working. Good. Without really thinking, I notice her hand resting beside her plate. Long fingers, elegant, strong. I reach across the table, place my hand lightly over hers. The contact is warm, soft. Her breath catches. She looks down, then back at me. A faint blush spreads across her cheeks. Success. Tiny, but unmistakable. Inside, I do a small victory dance. Maybe my research wasn't completely useless. She doesn't move her hand away. Instead, her thumb brushes lightly against mine. Just once. So, she says after a moment, I've discovered something. What? I enjoy spending time with you. The words are simple, sincere. They make something flutter inside my chest. I was hoping you'd say that. I'd like to see you again. My heart immediately agrees before my brain can participate. I'd like that. She smiles. Remember those pastries I brought you? The best pastries I've ever eaten. They came from a bakery a few blocks from my office. Her eyes brighten. They also make extraordinary hot chocolate. You're trying to tempt me. Is it working? Very much.
Would you let me take you there this weekend? I grin so hard my cheeks hurt. I'd love that. Inside, fireworks explode. Operation Seduce Vivian is going wonderfully. The only small problem is that somewhere between the headache massage, emotional bread, and shared Florence and the Machine songs, I'm no longer entirely sure I'm pretending to like Chloe's sister. And that realization is far more frightening than anything I'd researched all afternoon. Chapter 3. Estelle. It turns out corporate lawyers text like they're filing emotionally devastating legal documents. I discover this 3 days after our dinner, at exactly 8:17 a.m. Vivian. My client has described a legally binding contract as more of a suggestion. I smile into my cereal. Me. Have you considered replacing him? 3 dots appear almost immediately. I wasn't expecting that. I'd assumed Vivian would disappear into meetings for 12 hours and emerge sometime around midnight. Instead, she texts. Frequently. Vivian. Unfortunately, clients are not exchangeable. Me. Sounds like a design flaw. Vivian. I've raised this concern with management. I laugh out loud. 5 minutes later, another message arrives. Vivian. Management informed me I am management. Me. That's deeply unfortunate. By lunch, we've somehow started narrating our work days to each other. Me. A customer just asked whether vitamins can prevent her husband from becoming annoying. Vivian. Can they? Me. Sadly, no. Vivian. There goes my retirement plan. An hour later. Vivian. Opposing counsel has just argued that deadlines are an oppressive social construct. I stare at the screen. Me? ... Me. Please tell me you're joking. Vivian. I wish I were. Me. Did the judge laugh? Vivian. Internally, I hope. By Thursday morning, I'm waiting for the next message, which feels suspiciously like a habit. My phone buzzes while I'm stocking allergy medication. Vivian. Coffee has stopped working. Me. Have you tried crying? Vivian. In the office? Me. Builds character. Vivian. Human resources disagrees. Around noon. Me. A man just whispered to me that the government hides the good cough syrup. Vivian. Does it? Me. I'm legally forbidden from revealing state secrets. She reacts with a laughing emoji. Then, thank you. I blink. Me. 4? Vivian. You've made today considerably more entertaining. Something warm settles quietly inside my chest. Without realizing it, we've stopped talking only about work. She tells me about the stray cat that waits outside her office every morning. I tell her about Mrs. Henderson, who brings homemade cookies to the pharmacy every Friday because she says we're keeping old people operational. Vivian sends me pictures of rain outside the courthouse. I send her pictures of Steve the succulent, who somehow remains technically alive. Vivian. Steve has impressive resilience. Me. He's powered entirely by spite. Vivian. I respect him. Thursday evening, I make the mistake of opening social media. Chloe's newest post appears immediately. A smiling selfie. Her arm wrapped around the woman she'd cheated on me with. Finally official. For a long moment, I simply stare. A week ago, this would have ruined my evening. She never posted pictures of us, not once. Whenever I asked, she'd laugh and say she liked keeping her private life private. Apparently, private meant me. I wait for the familiar ache, for the anger, for the jealousy. Instead, nothing. Not because it doesn't matter, because somehow my thoughts drift elsewhere, to cedarwood, to Florence and the Machine, to expensive pastries, to a woman who somehow remembers to ask whether I've eaten lunch. I smile before I realize I'm smiling. Then I lock my phone. Maybe I've already started moving on. Friday night. I'm covering the late shift. The pharmacy grows strangely peaceful after 9. Fewer customers, softer lighting. The hum of refrigerators becomes louder than conversation. I finish organizing prescriptions when the automatic doors slide open. I don't need to look up. I recognize her scent first. Cedar. Rain. But tonight, something's different. It's fainter, frayed around the edges, like even her scent is tired. Vivian walks inside. For one terrifying second, I barely recognize her. Her hair has escaped its usual neat style. Dark circles shadow her eyes. Her blouse is slightly wrinkled beneath her blazer. She looks exhausted. She smiles anyway. Good evening. My chest hurts. What happened to you? She laughs quietly. I've been preparing for trial. For how long? She thinks. 36 hours. I blink. Vivian. I slept. When? Tuesday? That's not an answer. It's the closest one I have. She leans one hand against the counter. Only then do I notice how heavily she's supporting herself. Headache? Shoulders? Worse. When did you last eat? A pause. Breakfast. It's nearly 10. I've been busy. I point towards one of the pharmacy chairs. Sit. She obeys immediately. No argument. That worries me more than if she'd protested. I'll be right back.
The pharmacy has a tiny staff kettle. 5 minutes later, I return carrying hot chamomile tea and the emergency soup cup I keep in my locker. I place both in front of her. She looks at them. Then at me. I didn't order food. You don't have to. Estelle. Drink. She smiles tiredly. Yes, ma'am. Watching Vivian eat instant soup somehow becomes one of the most satisfying moments of my week. She actually looks embarrassed. I normally take much better care of myself. I believe you. I've simply, she sighs, forgotten I'm a person this week. The sentence lands heavily between us. I quietly slide another packet of crackers toward her. She accepts them with a grateful smile. By the time we close the pharmacy, she looks marginally more alive. Head massage? I ask. She smiles immediately. I was hoping you might offer. The tiny staff room somehow feels even cozier tonight. Steve still appears committed to surviving. The microwave still looks vaguely threatening. Vivian hangs her blazer over the chair without being asked this time. Same arrangement? She asks. I nod. If you're comfortable. I am. She lies down. Her head settles naturally into my lap, like she's done it 100 times instead of once. Something about that realization makes my heartbeat stumble. I slide my fingers gently into her hair. This bad? Worse. I begin with slow circles against her temples. She sighs almost immediately. There it is. What? The magic. I don't think massages are magic. This one is. I smile despite myself. You exaggerate. I joke when I'm awake. 2. Fair point. The muscles beneath my fingertips slowly loosen. Her breathing evens out. I move to her shoulders. They're impossibly tight. You carry your entire law firm here, I murmur. They'd probably deny it. I'll write them a strongly worded letter. I'll represent you. I thought lawyers weren't supposed to sue themselves. We're remarkably adaptable. We both laugh softly. Then silence settles. Comfortable silence. The kind that doesn't ask to be filled. Eventually, Vivian speaks again. So, I've started looking forward to your messages. My hands pause for just a second, then continue. You have? I'll be in meetings, she closes her eyes.
Then my phone buzzes. A sleepy smile appears. And suddenly, there's a story about someone asking whether antibiotics cure bad luck. I had that customer. I know. She lets out a contented sigh. You brighten my days. The words hit me far harder than I expect. I do? You really do. Her voice grows quieter. I don't actually talk to many people outside work anymore. I don't answer. She continues anyway. I've realized. A long pause. I find myself wanting to tell you about my day. My chest tightens. I want to know about yours too. She reaches up without opening her eyes, finds my hand, intertwines our fingers. The gesture feels instinctive, natural, like she'd forgotten to think before doing it. I'm becoming rather fond of seeing your name appear on my phone. My heart forgets how to function. Vivian. Another pause. So don't disappear. The words are barely louder than a whisper. Then she falls asleep, just like that, still holding my hand, still resting against me. I look down at her peaceful face. The tiny line between her brows has disappeared. She looks younger somehow, softer, safe. Something shifts quietly inside me. This isn't revenge anymore. Not really. I could pretend it is. I could keep telling myself this is all part of some elaborate plan to make Chloe regret cheating. But sitting here, watching Vivian sleep after working herself to exhaustion, feeling her fingers loosely wrapped around mine, the truth becomes impossible to ignore. I don't want to hurt Chloe anymore. I want Vivian to be happy. The realization should make me feel relieved. Instead, it fills me with dread. Because there's one enormous problem. Vivian still doesn't know who I am. Not really. She doesn't know I dated her younger sister. She doesn't know I've known who she is since the afternoon she walked into my pharmacy. She doesn't know every dinner, every conversation, every laugh we've shared has been shallowed by a truth I haven't yet found the courage to tell her. If this becomes something real, family birthdays, holiday dinners, celebrations, Chloe would be there every time. The thought twists painfully in my stomach. How could any relationship survive that? I look down at the sleeping woman in my lap. She'd told me honesty matters more than anything, and I'm already failing the person who's somehow become the brightest part of my day. I gently brush a loose strand of hair away from her face. I'm sorry, I whisper, though she can't hear me. I think I'm falling for you. Outside, the pharmacy sits quiet under the glow of fluorescent lights. Inside the tiny staff room, Vivian's fingers tighten fightly around mine in her sleep. And for the first time since I caught Chloe cheating, the future doesn't scare me because of heartbreak. It scares me because I finally have something precious enough to lose.
The story continues in the next part. Find the next part on my YouTube channel.